Welcome back. And today we have to talk about The Devil's Mouth, currently streaming over on Amazon Prime Video. We're going to skip the pleasantries and the plot recaps because we have a lot to unpack. So consider this your official, final, and inescapable spoiler warning. I went into this movie wanting a claustrophobic, tense, return to form for creature features because we haven't had a lot of good ones this year. But what did they give us here? They gave us an aggressively forgettable PG-13 exercise in cinematic frustration. So we had to break down the mechanics of this train wreck just so we can understand exactly why this survival thriller was spectacularly bad. Now, when it comes down to the execution and the pacing of Devil's Mouth, it's basically at war with itself. Now, don't get me wrong, I will give the movie props where props are due. Visually, it does look pretty good. I think they did a really good job of capturing that initial dread of being in a Thai cave system and underwater, may I add. But then the atmosphere is completely ruined by a staggering amount of PG-13 fluff and some of the most laughable, cheap fake outs that I have ever seen. Now, this tells me that the director clearly did not trust his own premise to hold our attention. So what they did is padded the entire first act with this incredibly heavy-handed foreshadowing. First, Sara gets left behind on the open water while her friends are out partying on a boat. And in this moment, we get this tense feeling like there's going to be a shark attack, something swimming under her. And then lo and behold, it's just jellyfish. Well, I guess I shouldn't say just jellyfish, but she's attacked by a pool of jellyfish. But then we don't even get to see how she's really rescued because cut scene and now she's already on the boat. Then during this tedious campfire scene, most of the group, except for Sara, goes off to go skinny dip. And then something mysteriously just brushes across Max's leg in the water. And I think it was something that was bitten off, but it was just more sharp foreshadowing. And in my opinion, it's all just exhausting filler while they just sit around having these unnecessarily long conversations about whether they're going to live in New York or LA. Who cares? Because how is any of that actually advancing the plot? Even when the actual bull shark finally shows up, the dread completely evaporates. The group spends this agonizing amount of time sitting on the rocks, complaining and whining, while the shark just swims around in circles, just killing precious screen time. And in my opinion, and you may disagree with me or you may agree with me, a survival thriller only works when there's some urgency. But the pacing here comes to a full stop every single time these characters decide to talk about their feelings and everything that's wrong rather than actually come up with an actual escape plan. It's like they're not even trying to survive. Now, the performances themselves were actually fine for what the actors were given. Catherine Newton and Lena Condor tried their absolute hardest to elevate this script that gave them absolutely nothing to work with. Just the same old generic survival movie trope. And that's not even where it stops because the writing for these characters is also infuriating. Which brings me to my very necessary rant about Max. Because Max has to be the worst friend ever. But the funny thing is, she's masking all of it by pretending that she's really a good friend. And if you've seen this film and tell me if you feel differently, I think she is probably the primary villain in the entire thing. The local guide, Watt, explicitly said that the red tunnel is flooded. It's almost monsoon season, so, we'll take the green path. But no, that's not good enough for Max. She bullies her entire group into basically agreeing with her and going down the most dangerous path anyways. But it doesn't stop there. It actually gets much worse. While exploring this one section of the cave that's literally called the Skeleton Cave, they find themselves mysteriously swimming through a bunch of dead fish. And I also think there's an eel bitten in half as well. But the point to this is, do they turn around? Absolutely not. And why don't they turn around in this moment? Because Max wants to go a little bit further just so she could carve her and Sarah's initials into a damn rock. And then later, after someone cuts their leg or whatever the case may be, and blood is getting in the water, and then we briefly see our local diver named Ryan, who we saw get attacked and eaten by the shark. And after Watt literally pulls a shark tooth out of his face mask and says, you know what? It is time to go. Max decides this is the perfect time to succumb to her own fear, throw a big ass tantrum, and convince everyone to stay put and do absolutely nothing and sit on a rock. So here's my challenge for you. I want someone, anyone, pause this video right now, head down into the comments and try to defend Max because her decision-making skills were the absolute worst, and I would dare anybody to try to defend them, because that would be very, very fun to do. But anyways, if you somehow made it through the middle act of this film and didn't throw your remote at the TV by now or just completely turn this movie off, you finally reach an ending that feels more like an exhausted sigh of relief rather than some triumphant climax. Now, after Watt is killed off screen trying to escape and the rest of the group is predictably picked off, including Max, whose demise was inevitable, but I was waiting for it and waiting for it and waiting for it. And when the jumping shark finally got her, I was actually pretty happy That was the best part of the movie for me. But now at this point, Sarah's completely left alone. Now, the mechanics of how she survives this situation, they are heavily telegraphed, but they are functionally effective. Earlier in the film, Watt pointed out these set of rocks that were pretty weak, and if you pushed them too hard or if they took too much impact, basically the whole cave would come crashing down. So Sarah remembers this and she uses this logic. She cuts her hand or leg or whatever, and she lures the shark to her, and it jumps and tries to bite her, and it crashes into the rock and the cave collapses on it and kills it. And that was even pretty anticlimactic, but at least she survived. But she's finally able to climb out of this cave, and this is where the irony sets in. The entire payoff is that the exit that Sarah got out of was almost the same one that they came in. So if they had just listened to her in the first 20 or 30 minutes of the film, then a lot more of them may be alive at this moment. But I have one quick hot take about this film, because I think the bull shark was actually the hero in this movie, because this was not a horror movie. I'm not even sure what you want to call it, because it's not a survival thriller either. The shark, in my opinion, was simply performing public service, because these characters did not deserve to be in this movie. And I'm glad that it wiped them out pretty quickly. And while it was pretty basic and not very exciting, there was one fun kill in the mix, the one where the shark basically bodied Greg, I think his name was, into the caves and bouncing around. I thought that was pretty humorous at the time, but the movie didn't get much better after that. And I'm sure you're asking by now, why did I even finish this if I hated it so much? And it's because I had the stubborn refusal to not abandon this after I had already invested so much time into it. I know it's a terrible reason, but that's my reason. And that is also why I'm giving this film a brutal 1.5 out of 5 stars. Visually, it is okay, but it is a fundamentally hollow movie that you should only stream if you just have nothing to do, or you have some friends over and you just want to laugh at some bullshit and, just to kill time. Maybe have some drinks as well. So let's settle all of this down in the comments now. If you were trapped in the cave with Max, what would you have done? Would you have abandoned her the second that she demanded to go down this red path? Because I can tell you, nobody would just make me do something that I don't want to do. Or, would you have just stayed behind and suffered with the rest of the group? Let me know down below. Also, if you have not, please hit that like and subscribe button. I truly appreciate it. It helps the channel and lets me know to keep bringing you videos like this. And with all of that being said, please don't forget to hit that hype button as well. I truly appreciate that. It helps the channel get out to more people. And until next time, stay safe, stay out of flooded caves, and I will see you in the next one.